guys, what is going on? Welcome to this week's course breakdown, bets, Draftkings picks for this week's 3M Open. It's one of my favorite events. If you want a little bit more info on the course, how we identified some of the key stats, take a look at the video that I posted yesterday. Before we get too far into it, I just want to say thank you guys. I think, over the past couple days, weeks, in the month or so that we've started this thing, we are getting a lot more views on the videos, have a lot of new subscribers. So just wanted to say thank you. This is something that, trying to do for fun. Who knows where it goes in the future, but can't take it anywhere without support from you guys. So much appreciated. Share it any chance you get if you like the content, if you like these things. Hopefully you're learning something too along the way. Again, something I'm doing for fun, but who knows where this will take us, right? So got to get started somewhere. So thank you guys and much appreciated. What I've done to prep for this, so we talked yesterday about the course. So 3M Open is played at TPC Twin Cities outside of Minneapolis. It's a par 71. It's about 7,400 yards, bent grass greens. If you look at the types of folks that can be successful here, you got to really be dialed in with your irons. And for me, because it's a little bit longer of a course, where you're hitting your approach shots from, I think might vary a little bit. So we've seen bombers be successful here. We've also seen short hitters be successful here. They're going to have very different distances hitting it into the hole, right? So hitting it onto the green. So I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all model kind of week. So basically what I did was I poured it over everything from Fantasy National, key proximity ranges, strokes gained approach, putting stats, opportunities gained, birdie or better, all of those fun things that we like to look at that we talked about yesterday. But to me, the best way to set this up was I'll show you guys. So basically what I did was I set up two models. And right now these models treat everyone equally. It doesn't give any weight or advantage to bombers over short hitters. But what I did was I essentially created two types of models. So again, with all of the key stats, right? Strokes gained putting, off the tee approach, those are all roughly the same. But these key proximity distances where folks are going to be hitting it in from, I think are a little different depending on what type of golfer you are. So if you're a little bit longer off the tee, I think you're actually going to be hitting it more in this like 125 to 175 range. And if you're shorter off the tee, I think you're going to be more in this 175 to 200 plus range. So I wanted to make sure we reflected that. So I'm giving a lot more weight to bombers who have kind of better inform, not short irons, but wedges, medium irons, right? And in terms of your short hitters, I want to see better long iron form. So I'm not as concerned with the inverse, right? I'm not as concerned with shorter hitters using their wedges. I want to make sure that we're trying to calibrate this thing based on the type of golfer that we have. I also brought in par 3 from, I guess I can zoom in a little bit. Maybe that'll make it easier to see. I also brought in par 3 efficiency, 200 plus, par 4 efficiency, 450 to 500 in terms of the yardage. Strokes gained on par 5 is going to be super important. So we got to make birdies and eagles on those holes. I am putting a little bit of weight on fairways gained for my shorter hitters. Get an easier time hitting it into the green. If you're hitting it out of the rough, again, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but it's probably worse if you are a shorter hitter because that means you got to get a little bit more on it. You got to control the spin too. So that's going to be a little bit trickier, I think, for short hitters that aren't finding fairways. And then, like I said, I also brought in opportunities gained and birdie or better. So again, I'm not giving any difference in weight depending on if you're a bomber or a short hitter. Everyone's treated equal in this iteration of the model. I may change that up, we'll see. But if you basically work through that, so I took like the top X% of the field in terms of driving distance, assigned them to the bomber weighting, and then the bottom X% of the field to the short hitter weighting. So it's basically, if you're top, let's say 25, 30% of the field in driving distance, you're getting the bomber model, and then everyone else is getting the short hitter model. So when you do that, what you see, again, this is not something that I'm super comfortable with yet, but I want to take a closer look at it and try to understand why. When you do that kind of weighted average, kind of recalibrate all the weights, Stuart Sink becomes your number 1 rated golfer, followed by Louis Oosthuizen. So again, this may not be wrong from a model perspective, but talking about Louis for a little bit, he's currently 12 to 1. He's 10,900 on Draftkings. I don't know what to do with Louis. I feel like he is a guy that can play well in certain types of courses. He obviously plays well at majors. He obviously, just coming off the Open Championship, was leading heading into the weekend, leading heading into the final round, and just kind of blew up again on Sunday. I don't know that type of guy with those sorts of recent, results kind of lingering in the back of their head, also traveling back from England. It's tough for me to click Louis' name this week. It's also just even independent of that, tough for me to click his name knowing that the winning score is going to be like 21, 22 under par. Is Louis Oosthuizen the type of guy that can get there, right? So for me, I'm probably not going to be using Louis this week. I'm probably not alone in that regard. So again, he may end up withdrawing. Who knows before things tee off on Thursday. But assuming he's still in there, I'm just not sure I can click his name. Stuart Sink, though, I could get it, right? This guy he's won already a couple times on tour. I don't know if he's going to win this event, but I could certainly see him playing well. He missed the cut at the Open Championship. I think he blew up on Friday. He actually posted a decent score in round one. So he's coming in, had a little bit more time than maybe some of these other guys to get back to the States. So I'm not, again, some of this comes down to lineup construction, which we'll talk about maybe a little bit more tomorrow in our kind of DraftKings model build, basically talk ownership, how we're going to set up our lineups for the week. Maybe he fits, but 8,700, I don't know he's that different from some of these other guys. So these first two guys coming out of my model, I'll have to think a little bit more about, but my initial lean is maybe pass, but I'm not sure yet. This next range, though, definitely intrigues me a lot. So Patrick Reed is a guy who also missed the cut at the Open Championship. I'm pretty sure he has, I have to look into this, I'm pretty sure he has good history anytime he's coming off a missed cut. Again, it's hard for me to see him competing at a birdie fest, getting to like 21 under par. Like, some of these guys are just grinders, right? They're suited for more, certain types of events, certain types of courses. But he can absolutely play well here. So he played the 3M Open a couple years ago. I think he had a strong top 20 finish. That's probably fine if your winner's coming from somewhere else, right? So to me, I'll probably be anchoring a bit on Patrick Reed this week. Again, if for nothing else, the safety. I'm not going to bet him at 16-1. I just don't feel like that's a smart move, but I get it if you wanted to go in that direction. So the next couple guys on the list are also really interesting to me. So Johnny Vegas is rating 4th in my model. He's number 1 off the tee, 18th overall on approach. His medium form wedges, irons, etc. are top 25% in this field. His longer range, not as much, not as great on the long par 3s, but he's doing it in a couple different ways. He's obviously super long off the tee. He's going to make birdies, that. It really just comes down to avoiding bogeys to get in contention, but I could totally see it. So I'm very intrigued at the 66-1 at the 7,500 price tag on DraftKings. So he's a guy that I'm probably going to be looking at this week. Then you get into Keegan Bradley. So he's rating out really well. Usually solid ball strikers will, again, unless it's a course or Open Championship, ball strikers are going to rate out really well in my model for the most part. So Keegan Bradley, no doubt, getting it done in a lot of ways. He's definitely one of the stronger guys in this field. Again, he's coming in at 8,800. He's 40-1. It really, for him, is just going to come down to the putter. And we've seen him he's at least done better in this department of late. So Keegan Bradley is a guy that's really interesting. Again, you got to make enough putts to get to 21 under par. I think that's hard for some of these guys that aren't as good with the putter, but you never know. He could flash for a week, right? And bent grass, again, he's in the bottom 10 in this field in putting. You know what you're getting, but he's at least going to give himself chances. So that's all you can ask for. So I'll probably be buying on Keegan Bradley this week. I don't know if I'm going to bet him, but again, 8,800, depending on, so this is the other side of this. Depending on how model construction works out for the week, are you really going to use guys in the 8K range, right? So maybe a different way of building your models or building your lineups this week to use a couple guys in the upper 8s, because my guess is that's going to be a bit of a dead zone, right? So if you're using guys like Patrick Reed, talk about DJ in a second, it kind of forces you down into the 7K range. So the fact that these guys are rating out so well in the model, A balanced build will probably be more contrarian this week. So maybe you could start with a couple guys in the 9Ks, use some guys in the upper 8s, kind of fill out your lineups from there. So definitely a viable strategy. And the fact that so many of these like lower 9s, high 8s type players are rating out so well for me, it actually is kind of intriguing to me to do some of that this week. So we'll see. But an initial thought on lineup construction for the week. So then you get to DJ. DJ obviously played well at the Open Championship, finished top 10, rating out very well. He's the class of this field. He's the betting favorite. You can absolutely use DJ on DraftKings. I'm probably not going to bet him at 7-1. We'll have to check on ownership too. We'll see how comfortable of lineups we can build with an $8,300 DJ. So again, you use him, you're kind of forcing yourself down into a lot of 7Ks, maybe even some of the 6K guys. So we'll see what happens. But he's definitely a viable play. He's obviously, now number 2 in the world behind Jon Rahm. Maverick McNeely's coming in next. He's a guy that can putt. He's a guy that can hit it really far. That checks a lot of boxes for me. I will probably be using some Maverick McNeely. The number's a little short. Maybe you can get a better number elsewhere, but 30-1 is a little short for me. But I don't know. In this field, it could make sense. Hank Labiota, who we talked about a couple times, he's obviously coming in really awesome form. He's played well at this event in the past. He's only 7,900, which feels like a discount from what I was expecting. So, again, we'll have to see what ownership looks like, but he's a guy I could definitely see using here as well. And then you get into Luke List. Yeah, Luke List, who played well again this last week at the Barbasol. He rates out well in a lot of categories. Again, just comes down to the putter for him. But again, at 8,100, it kind of feels like a discount. He's going to make a lot of birdies. 6th in this field in opportunities. Sorry. 6th in this field in opportunities gained, 25th in birdie or better. So even if he doesn't place high, he's going to make a lot of birdies if he makes the cut. He's got as good a chance as anybody to make some eagles out there. So Luke List, definitely interesting and in good form. Then you get into some of the shorter guys. So Kyle Stanley, Ches Reavie, like these guys are almost the same guy to me. It just comes down to whether or not they can make putts, but they're obviously in good form. And again, I need to think about it a little bit more. I don't know if these are the type of guys. They're going to have to get hot with the putter. I don't know that I would build a lineup with like all of these plotter types in them that you're relying on the putter. Like if you build a lineup with Keegan Bradley, Kyle Stanley, and Ches Reavie, they're probably not all going to catch a hot putter, right? Doug Ghim is also in that category, right? So I don't know that I bet on all of those guys catching a hot putter this week, but I think you can definitely kind of mix and match them throughout your lineups, and it gives you, some potential upside, right? These are probably the best of the 7K guys. I don't know that I would use all of them in every single lineup, but I think you can get away with it. I think it's a viable strategy to attack some of that, and their odds too. Kyle Stanley's at 80, Ches Reavie 66, Doug Ghim at 66. Like that's a good range, I think, this week. I think you can go further down the board this week too. We'll talk about some of those guys, but to me, like again, you're basically betting on these guys catching a hot putter. So Doug Ghim, I think, has played well in this event in the past. I'm probably just going to keep riding Doug Ghim every week until he wins, and I'll probably lose all my money doing it. But from a ball striking perspective, like there's no reason that he can't play well here. And if you catch the week that he finds his putter, he's probably going to be in the mix. So again, we'll probably be on Doug Ghim again this week. Then you get into some real crazy names. So Wes Roach is rating out 14th in the model. I think some of this is Korn Ferry Tour stats coming into play, but could be wrong about that. But he's rating out really well. He hasn't done it in any meaningful way. He's finished top 50 in a couple events, but that might be all you need at 6,300, right? Maybe for fun, just because I like to do this with my crazy guys in the model. He's 300-1. Just throw a couple bucks on him and see if he can get it done. So Wes Roach, the only show out there that you will hear about Wes Roach, I'm sure. So he's definitely interesting, 6,300. Steve Stricker, probably not going to use, to be honest. I don't know. These guys can play well, but it's hard to see him doing anything that again, at a birdie fest, maybe he can get it done. The John Deere Classic, he played pretty well, but I'm generally not on board. Same thing with Ryan Armour. I think Ryan Armour did play well at the Barbasol, so maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot by not considering these guys, but I don't know. Maybe I'll mix at least a Ryan Armour or someone like that in my player pool, but not going to go heavy, and I'm not going to bet him. Patton Kizzire, Pat Perez, Bubba Watson, these guys are all really interesting to me too. So Bubba's actually number 1 in this field in birdie or better percentage. Pat Perez, number 6. And Patton Kizzire, number 2. So like these guys I think are all fine plays this week. Again, if they make the cut, they're going to be scoring. If they avoid the bogeys, they're going to be in contention. So I do like those guys, and if you can get a good number on them, I think they're interesting bets as well. A little bit further down, not sure exactly what I'm going to do with these guys yet. Patrick Rogers played really well at the Barbasol. Adam Schenk, again, played well at the Barbasol. Week before that, almost won the John Deere, so maybe a good week to get back on him. Again, would like to find a better number than 66-1, but you never know. We'll see. And then you get into 2 guys, like your basically seasoned PGA Tour pros, not these random no names that we up above. Ricky Fowler, Gary Woodland. Again, probably good lineup fillers. I don't know what to do with Ricky. So played well the Open Championship, especially on Sunday. I think he made like 5 birdies and an eagle, flew up the board. Again, not in a meaningful way, because I think on Saturday he was like 8 over par, but it's good to see. He's just super inconsistent, right? So it's just hard to see him putting it together for 4 rounds, but this might be the type of event where he can contend. So I'll probably end up buying on Ricky. The 8,900 price tag is a little iffy to me. Like Gary Woodland, you can get at 8K, and I'd probably even feel a little bit better about it. But the one thing holding Gary Woodland back, probably to me, is going to be his efficiency on some of these longer par 4s. Again, I think he can get it done. I think he can make birdies. He might be a value bet at 50-1. He's probably one of the better players in this field, or at least one of the guys that has a bit more win equity. So I could totally see it. Definitely going to be a DraftKings play for me. Not sure what to do with the 50-1 number, but I could see myself hitting that one. Then you get into Tony Finau. So he's priced way up there. He's 10-7, 16-1. I don't know if I can get up and bet him at that number. I'd like to see it maybe drop a little. Maybe throughout the week it will, but I could see using him in DraftKings, maybe anchoring my lineups on like Patrick Reed, DJ, and Finau, and maybe even get some lineups with both of those guys in it, and then, you know, use some of my crazy names like Wes Roach. Like, I think that's a viable strategy this week. Kind of take 2 guys at the top. I'm not sure exactly how other people are going to be doing it yet. We'll have to see how ownership shakes out, but you know, I could see something like that working out. So maybe, you know, get some exposure to those top 3, knock Louis out of there because I just can't click his name this week. But, you know, then you can get some lineups and maybe, you know, mix and match a couple of those guys, use them as kind of the anchor for the rest of your lineup. That may be something that I definitely, you know, consider this week. And then, okay, so now we're a little bit further down in the model, right? You can't play everybody, but you got this like 30 to 50 range. So this is where guys like Bo Hogue, Lonto Griffin, Griot's down here, but only because he can't putt, and maybe even some of his other stats aren't as great. It's kind of interesting. Scott Stallings, Charles Schwartzel. I think some of these guys can probably contend. It's just, does the price tag merit it? Using them in DraftKings or betting them, I'm not sure. Like, I'm probably not going to bet Sergio. Cam Tringali actually, I think, finished 3rd here last year, so he could be interesting. But again, at the price tag 9,500, like, why wouldn't I just go down to someone in the 7Ks? Basically the same guy. I'm sure he'll end up winning now that I said that, but I don't know. It's just hard to click his name. He's a guy that just doesn't win. So, and if you're paying 9,500 for him, you don't need him to win. You're fine with a top 10, but I don't know. Then you're kind of sacrificing. And again, maybe this is a contrarian way to build lineups, but I'd almost rather take some of the guys priced above him. Maybe this creates, again, that awkward kind of dead zone. Maybe mix in some Cam Tringali with, you know, some of these other guys. There's a different way of building lineups. So maybe he'll end up in my player pool, but not sure exactly what to do with him yet. Joseph Bramlett, bomber, played really well at the Barbasol as well, so he could be a guy to take a flyer on this week. I could totally see that. So if he can keep up the putting, for another week at 150 to 1 in a crappy field like this. I could get behind that. I think that could make sense. Mito Pereira played really well last week. Again, he's the Korn Ferry Tour 3-time winner, promoted to PGA Tour. The ball striking stats have been there. Last week, I think he finished top 10 maybe at the Barbasol. Week before that, made the cut at the John Deere, just couldn't make a putt. Week before that, solid ball striking, but lost a ton on the greens. So again, like the stats here probably don't reflect how good of a play he probably is. Again, like this is kind of it's a little stronger than a glorified Korn Ferry Tour event, but not that different, right? You got like a couple big names at the top. I think there's probably more parity than ever in terms of the top of the Korn Ferry Tour and the bottom of the PGA Tour, right? Heck, probably half of those guys at the top of the Korn Ferry Tour are probably better than a lot of the PGA Tour pros. So I don't know if I'm betting him at 80 to 1. 7,600 seems like a reasonable price. I'll probably have some him in my lineups. And then I guess a little bit further down, notice you haven't seen guys like Matthew Wolff. I think that's a function of I'm looking at the past 24 rounds. He hasn't played in a while. When he has played, he's been super inconsistent, but he obviously loves it here. So Matthew Wolff's coming in at 55 in the model. He's 9,700. He's about 30 to 1. I don't know if I'm going to bet him or not, to be honest, this week. I think it's a tall ask, but I could totally see him playing well. So he's a guy I'll probably have some exposure to in fantasy. Will Gordon is a guy who's super inconsistent but makes a ton of birdies. This could be an event for him. So I may throw a dart on him at 150 to 1. Again, not really the best in terms of every single stat, but he's a bomber. If he gets hot with the putter for a week, you know he's going to make a ton of birdies. He's 24th in birdie or better. If you can get a good number on him at like 150, 6,700 on DraftKings, I think he's worth a shot. So again, going to keep doing some more research, diving into this. Just wanted to show you guys some of my model, how guys are shaking out. At least at the first pass of this thing, show you guys a little bit of the kind of unique way that I set up my model for the week. So hopefully this is beneficial. Jumpstart the week. I'll let you guys know where I land in terms of my final betting card here tomorrow or Wednesday. I also want to do a quick DraftKings specific kind of update with ownership, show you how I'm building my models for the week. So, some of the different rules that I'm using on the player pool, how I'm going to be overexposed or underexposed to certain guys based on ownership. Think about creative ways of building lineups for this week. So stay tuned for that. That's coming very soon. So hopefully you guys learned something from this. Again, I think there's some guys at the top that are super interesting. For me, it's probably Patrick Reed, Dustin Johnson, Tony Finau. I do like some of these guys that are rating out pretty well at the top of my model. Johnny Vegas, Keegan Bradley, Mav McNeely, Hank Labiota, Luke List, Kyle Stanley, Ches Reavie. Again, not all of those guys that can't putt, but a couple of them. Doug Gim in that camp. Cam Davis played well here last year. I don't think I hit him earlier, but he's rating out really well in my model for the week as well. Some crazy guys like Wes Roach get a little exposure to that sort of golfer. Again, in the middle here, you got like Patton Kizzire, Pat Perez, Bubba Watson. I do like those guys. Patrick Rogers, Adam Schenk, Ricky Fowler, Gary Woodland. A little bit further down, some of my favorite guys would be like Mito Pereira, Matthew Wolff. Not sure exactly what I'm going to do with him yet, but maybe get some exposure to him in fantasy, but not bet him. And then take a stab on like a guy like Will Gordon. I think he's, a decent fit for this course. He'll probably dunk some balls in the water, so just be prepared for that. But if he doesn't, I think he could actually contend. So you're just kind of rooting for him to not hit some wayward drives, which is obviously a lot to ask. His accuracy is not the best, but he does make a ton of birdies. So even if he just makes the cut, you get a top 30 finish, he's probably going to outdo his 6,700 price tag. So again, I'll keep looking through this, let you guys know where I land in terms of my player pool and bets come Tuesday or Wednesday. And as always, if you like the content, like the video, please subscribe to my page, like the video itself. Throw out some comments, questions. I'm happy to answer and address anything as you guys are looking through this too. And we will talk very soon. So happy research. Talk soon, guys.